Welcome back. I promised to do more videos for this channel, so I figured why not get to it right now, right? And it was something I was reading, and it wasn't really an article worth mentioning in full details, but when I read it, it just made me see how one of the biggest problems when you deal with health is something that most people wouldn't really understand as a problem. And that's basically the lack of what some people call shamanism, because that word can be controversial in itself. What some people call shamanism, and the disconnect between that and regular spirituality, and even how it trickles down even into alternative health, right? So one of the reasons why I love Chinese medicine as much as I do is because Chinese medicine has a lot of ties to Taoism and Chinese alchemy. And in Chinese alchemy and Taoism, um, they're very connected to shamanism. Realistically, Taoism is just an extension of Mongolian shamanism, but just shamanism that or a spiritual system that deals more with energy than actually the other things that the shaman deals with. So I think when it comes down to Chinese medicine tends to have a much more realistic point of view of how to address certain situations. And when I look at the alternative health community, that's the biggest problem. Because I did a video on milk, and you know, people could tell me, well, it's a lot of problems. Like, why go through all that trouble to drink milk? And they missed the whole point. Right? And that's the thing about shamanism is that when you deal with it, it's supposed to be the easiest thing in the world, right? Because all the shaman basically is a human being that understands the whole purpose of humanity. So he's doing him or her, or if it's a shamanist, is doing their purpose. As a shaman, they come in and they actually try to help keep balance between the culture of village or country that they come from, and then the invisible world, as well as the other three kingdoms of nature, meaning mineral, plants, animals, right? Plants, minerals, and animals don't need a shaman, right? They're all kind of in tune already. Now, animals are kind of following us. So now you get a lot of animals that are not in tune anymore, right, with nature, or they're losing connection in nature, like a lot of domesticated animals are. But for the most part, the animal kingdom doesn't really need one person amongst them to be like, well, I'm going to keep the traditions alive. Humans do. So the shamans are the humans that decide to keep the traditions alive. So that becomes easy to understand. The problem is though, is that now that's been a skill that's been kind of disconnected from traditional spirituality, which is trickling into alternative health. So now the spiritual systems are more imbalanced, and because the spiritual systems are imbalanced, the alternative health systems are imbalanced, right? So if I say, oh, drinking milk could be good in certain circumstances, people will look at how hard it would be to drink milk instead of looking at the fact that, oh shoot, the the cow is looking at a human being as an extension of themselves that's evolving, and the cows want to add themselves to our blueprint. So just like a human mom is giving their baby milk, the cows give the human beings milk. Because of that, the cow makes more milk than the calves could drink, which doesn't make logical sense, but they do. Just like the bees make more honey than they need, but they actually want you to eat the honey. And when you're not coming from the shamanistic point of view, that sounds crazy, right? Because the biggest sickness, like if you ask a shaman, the shaman would say the biggest sickness humans have is they stepped from nature. So this is not even really to attack the alternative health community or to attack people who can sometimes hear shamanistic concepts when dealing with health and not understand it. It's more to say that when you when you're in the world and you become spiritual, or you attempt to become spiritual, you attempt to start to study metaphysics, you attempt to start to study alternative health and try to get your health better, understand that it's kind of like what they say in Gnosticism, you're so fallen that you should be happy that that you're taking a step in the right direction. Meaning, it's different if I'm in kindergarten in first and second grade and I think I'm in college taking calculus or trigonometry. I'm not taking trigonometry. I'm not taking calculus. That's the difference, right? When you first start on this journey, and then you go to the traditional holistic, like the holistic community where they would have it where carrots would be the boogeyman, you know, broccoli will be bad, right? Like where we come in and we attempt to correct the wrong that's taken place. We're still in kindergarten, we're still in first grade, we're still in second grade. I don't even pretend to be in college myself. But and then that's why I would say even in that video, like, oh wow, I said drinking milk was wrong years ago, and I realized it's wrong, yes, but this is the reason why it's wrong. And because science is actually the first shamanism, sorry, is the first science. What people don't really realize is in science you gotta be right and exact, right? So shamanism is the same. That's why I brought it up. Meaning, yes, I could just say, well, drinking milk is bad now, right? Drinking milk is bad. It has the cows are pumped with all kind of stuff, all kind of hormones. They're not fed good food, right? It's not raw milk. It's pasteurized milk. You can't even get raw milk. So I could look at that and say, well, I don't have to address the milk topic because right now drinking milk is bad for 99% of people, and it would be. But the difference is in science and shamanism, especially because shamanism was the first science. If something is wrong or something is right, you have to be clear why it's wrong. You have to be clear why it's right. And a lot of times we get lazy. That's the difference. And through that laziness, right? Because even if someone comes to us and tells us, "Oh, I'm just supposed to eat an alkaline diet," or "I'm just supposed to eat a vegetarian diet," right? "I'm just supposed to eat a vegan diet." Believe it or not, that comes from laziness too. As shocking as that may be, because I know it's easier to tell someone to eat alkaline diet, eat a purely vegetarian diet, or eat a purely vegan diet, because when you go to the realness of it, yeah, the world is so corrupt now that you better eat mostly vegetables and be somewhat vegan, because I mean the animals are in chaos right now because of how we treat them, how we prep them. But you still have to be right and exact because everyone is not in that same situation. Some people may be near farms. Some people may eventually grow their own food. And if the minute you tweak something, it affects something else. So part of the problem is that because we don't understand that our connection to nature is not what it's supposed to be, and because animals when they're sick they automatically know what to eat, we don't know that. It affects us in the sense that we also have this lazy mentality logically, where we sweep certain things under the rug because we don't want to do too much work, right? The reason why shamanism is what it is because the shamans had thousands of years of experimenting on themselves, and they could tell you what's right and what's wrong. That's the difference. That's why when you look at it from the Aborigines, when you look at it from the Native Americans, right? Really, two peoples. If you want to add the Tibetans, you can, right? Three cultures that you people can talk all they want to talk, but they knew what they were talking about when it came to health and when it came to living with the earth. None of those three cultures are vegetarian. The Aborigines eat more meat than almost anyone. Now, are we in Australia hunting our own food? No. So then I would say, okay, well then, you don't know what you're getting when it comes to meat, so you're probably supposed to eat vegetables, especially because we slaughter far too much animals anyway. And as much as the Aborigines and Native Americans may hunt, they don't eat meat to eat meat. Like meaning we eat meat 3 times a day sometimes. We eat meat, beef jerky for snacks. So we're killing far too many animals. So yes, vegetarianism for the way the world is probably is better. But at the same time, you can see how when you get into the consciousness of the shaman, it's a different way of looking at things. And even though it's supposed to be the easiest thing in the world, because to be honest, if you look at it, if plants and animals don't need shamans, right? They automatically know what to eat, what not to eat, right? What to consume, what not to consume. Um, at the same time, then you look at that and you say, well, the biggest problem of humans is our instincts, and our instincts is anti-nature. Our instincts is so anti-nature that even when you look at our spirituality, what does our spirituality say? Our spirituality says, "Let me go escape from the world." Originally, a spiritual system would plug you into the world, and once you plug into the world, the more you plug in, the more you start to understand. Oh, there's a hidden nature to the world, and in the hidden nature of the world, you perceive as the spiritual world. But that's something that you would come through a natural progression of things. We don't do that anymore. So if I talk about, you know, animals being connected to us and animals, number one, being our extended family, almost like our cousins. Number two, animals and plants being our cousins, but older versions of ourselves because those kingdoms are older than us. We have to take We have to be inspired by them. We have to take direction from them. And when we truly get inspiration from them and direction from them, our views of holistic medicine will change, and our views of spirituality will change. And in the end of the day, until it does, there's nothing wrong with plugging into holistic community. There's nothing wrong with getting involved in alternative health community. But always understand that's the beginning, and never be scared to stay flexible, to keep evolving. Right. So for me, I wasn't a big fan of milk and carrots. Why? Because I'm coming from the holistic community. In the holistic community, milk and carrots are the boogeyman. Now, would I still tell someone to eat milk and carrots? No, I wouldn't. But at the same time, if someone, especially with milk, I'm not gonna treat milk like the boogeyman. I'm gonna tell you the reason why milk is bad. And if you have the consciousness, I'll even tell you, hey man, we have a special connection to cows. There's a reason why India cherished the cows. Any domesticated animal, if an animal is domesticated, chances are there's a connection spiritually between us and them. And if that sounds weird, this goes into why I made this video. It's weird because we are no longer connected to nature. So our instincts are so off that when someone comes to us with knowledge that is not the traditional way of thinking, we dismiss it. Or worse, we don't really pay attention to it. And then we get this weird superiority over nature. And once you have that weird superiority over nature, no matter how metaphysical you think you are, or no matter how much you try to be healthy, it's not going to work. As the shaman would say, the biggest problem with the world is that we all stepped away from nature. And we practice spiritual systems that are not really connected to nature. They promise escapism. We practice an alternative health, right? The alternative health we practice, or the holistic health we practice, is a reaction to Western medicine. They use the same terms, right? So when it's reacting to Western medicine, right, or it's coming from a product of a crazy mind. So when you're reacting to a crazy mind, you might be a little bit better, but the system you create is going to still have flaws too. And I'm telling you, there's no better connection, there's no better healer than the shaman. So when the shaman is telling you some stuff, or when you read up on some animism or some types of shamanism or some types of shamanistic healing, pay attention to that. That's why I've always liked some of the Native American spirituality. Tibetan spirituality, when it was Bonpo, I liked, but now it's more Buddhist, so they kind of lost that too. But the Aboriginal spirituality, even some of the African healing systems, they even still got it. That's why. So when you want to know what's the biggest illness to humans, it's actually once we decided to step out of nature, and once we refuse to go back into nature fully and integrate with nature fully. So when you look at our spiritual systems, when you look at our healing systems, you can see that the minds who created that still have a resistance towards going fully into nature. And until we fully embrace nature, we would always be sick. So, till next time, peace.